Here are the top stories this hour. More than 20 killed in militant attack in Congo. 22 persons dead in car accident in Zimbabwe. Plus, one killed in shelling in Ukraine. Welcome to the World News on VOP TV. I am Kayla Abraham. Now, no fewer than 23 persons have been killed when Islamist militants raided a village in Eastern Democratic Republic of Congo late on Sunday. A civil society leader, Maurice Mabele Musaidi, who gave an initial death toll of 19, stated that the attackers tied up villagers and killed them with machetes and other weapons while others fled. He added that some may have drowned as they tried to cross the Lamia River into Uganda, noting that many were still missing. A local official disclosed later on Monday that the death toll had risen to at least 33, including an army captain. 2 were children who drowned as they tried to reach Uganda. 23 victims were buried in the village, while 6 people were taken hostage to help carry looted goods and then executed. A spokesperson for Congo's army stated that the attack in Beni Territory's Watalinga chiefdom was carried out by the Allied Democratic Forces ADF, an armed group based in eastern Congo that has pledged allegiance to Islamic State. A total of 22 persons have died on the spot, while 2 others critically injured after a Toyota Quantum with 21 passengers on board was involved in a head-on collision with a truck in Zimbabwe. Police spokesperson Assistant Commissioner Paul Nyathi disclosed that the injured are currently admitted at the United Bulawayo Group of Hospitals. The accident occurred at the 27-kilometer peg along Bulawayo-Bet Bridge Road. This comes a day after 6 other people were killed, while 3 others injured when a Nissan Caravan vehicle with 8 passengers on board was involved in a head-on collision with a Mercedes-Benz truck along Maspingo-Bet Bridge Road. Police urge motorists to observe road rules to avoid accidents. Ukrainian Interior Minister Ihor Klimenko stated on Wednesday that more than 1 person was killed when the Ukrainian city of Solidov in the eastern region of Donetsk was shelled by Russian forces overnight. Klimenko disclosed on Facebook that so far the body of a woman had been found under the rubble of a high-rise apartment building. He stated that at least 1 person might still be under the rubble. 5 people have been rescued, including a child, adding that emergency and rescue operations are still underway. 67 passengers and crew escaped death as aircraft belonging to ValueJet, a Nigerian airline, skidded off the runway at Port Harcourt International Airport in Rivers State, Nigeria. The incident happened around afternoon time on Tuesday when some of passengers were said to have sustained injuries, but no deaths were recorded. Reports stated that airport officials disclosed that no airplane can neither land or take off from the Port Harcourt International Airport until ill-fated aircraft is towed out of the runway. Airlines are now being diverted to near airport, and plans were in top gear to tow away the aircraft. It was gathered that the airplane skidded off because of the slippery algae on the runway. Israeli forces have raided Al-Shifa hospital, where thousands of Palestinians are sheltering following days of heavy attacks in the area surrounding the complex in Gaza City. Israel's military disclosed early on Wednesday morning that it was carrying out an operation against Hamas in a specified area at Al-Shifa. Calling the assault a targeted operation in Gaza's largest medical facility, it stated that the raid was based on Israeli and United States intelligence. Israel accuses Hamas, the group that governs Gaza, of using the hospital as a base. Hamas rejects the claim, and Israel has not produced evidence to back up its assertion. Dr. Munir al-Bursh, the general director of hospitals in the Gaza Strip, told journalists that Israeli forces searched the basement of Al-Shifa and entered the surgical and emergency buildings within the complex. Meanwhile, Hamas says U.S. President Joe Biden is wholly responsible for the Israeli assault on Gaza's largest hospital, the Palestinian group that rules the enclave. The accusation came in a statement on Wednesday, a day after the White House stated that U.S. intelligence sources corroborated Israel's claims that Hamas has buried an operational center under the hospital. Israeli forces stated on Wednesday morning that they were carrying out a precise and targeted operation against a suspected Hamas command center beneath Al-Shifa, where thousands of civilians are sheltering. Meanwhile, Southeast Asian defense ministers called on Wednesday for the fighting in Gaza to cease immediately and for the world to collaborate in setting up humanitarian aid corridors in Gaza, but they struggled on how to address the prolonged civil strife in Myanmar. The Myanmar crisis was high on the agenda when defense chiefs from the Association of Southeast Asian Nations met in Indonesia's capital, Jakarta. The 10-nation bloc includes Myanmar, but its defense minister was again barred from attending this week's meetings due to the military government's failure to comply with a 5-point emergency plan drafted to ease the violence. ASEAN has been trying to enforce the plan it forged with Myanmar's top general in 2021, which calls for an immediate end to the violence, the start of talks brokered by a special envoy among contending parties, and the delivery of aid to displaced people. But Myanmar's military government has done little to enforce the plan. The defense ministers on Thursday will be meeting with ASEAN's aid dialogue partners with territorial dispute over the South China Sea expected to be raised. Now, some of the 40 construction workers trapped in a collapsed road tunnel for a fourth day on Wednesday were sick as fallen debris and technical glitches delayed the work to free them. Wide pipes are set to be drilled through excavated rubble to create a passage to free the workers trapped since Sunday, when a portion of the under construction road collapsed in mountainous Uttarakhand state. That is testing the patience of relatives and friends of the trapped workers gathering outside the tunnel, who are growing frustrated and angry with reports that some workers were falling sick. Magistrate Abhishek Ruhela stated that some workers have sent messages that they are suffering from fever, body aches and nervousness. Medicine also has been sent through pipes that were set up earlier to get water and food to the workers. North Korea has tested a new type of high-thrust solid fuel engine for ballistic missiles on Tuesday. The first ground jet test was successfully conducted on November 11, while the second stage engine test was carried out on November 14. Korean news agency disclosed that the tests were designed to evaluate the technical specifications of the newly developed high-thrust solid fuel engines for intermediate-range ballistic missiles, adding that the test provided a certain guarantee for reliably accelerating the development of the new type IRBM system. Meanwhile, the Defense Ministry in Seoul stated that South Korea and the U.S. conducted joint air drills over the Yellow Sea on Wednesday, involving 2 U.S. B-52H strategic bombers. Chinese president has arrived in the United States for his first visit in 6 years after U.S. president stated that his goal in their bilateral talks this week was to restore normal communications with Beijing, including military-to-military contacts. Xi Jinping is due to meet Joe Biden near San Francisco on Wednesday morning, U.S. time, before attending the annual summit of the 21-member Asia-Pacific Economic Cooperation APEC grouping. Xi waved from the door of his Air China plane before walking down the steps to meet U.S. officials, including Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen and U.S. Ambassador to China Nicholas Burns, who were waiting on the tarmac. He's on his first visit to U.S. since 2017, when he met then-President Donald Trump. The United States Agency for International Development will restart food aid deliveries across Ethiopia in December, 5 months after it halted its nationwide program over a massive corruption scheme by local officials. Last month, a U.S. aid resumed food aid to the roughly 1 million refugees in the East African country after the Ethiopian government agreed to remove itself from the dispatch, storage, and distribution of refugee food supplies. U.S. aid spokesperson Jessica Jennings stated on Tuesday that the planned resumption comes after the agency reintroduced reforms to improve the registration of beneficiaries and the tracking of donated grain. U.S. aid and the UN's World Food Program suspended food aid to Ethiopia's Tigray region in mid-March after uncovering a colossal scheme by government officials to steal donated grain. The two agencies halted their programs across the country in early June after discovering the theft was nationwide. South Sudan has vehemently denied any connection to the ongoing conflict in neighboring Sudan, dismissing allegations prompted by the circulation of photos on social media showing individuals from South Sudan wearing the RSF uniform. The South Sudanese government's response comes in the wake of media reports suggesting the presence of South Sudanese fighters aligned with the RSF against the Sudanese military. However, there is no concrete evidence to substantiate these claims. South Sudan's Foreign Affairs and International Cooperation Minister James Peter Morgan asserted that President Salva Kiir has played a pivotal role in mediating the conflict in Sudan since its outbreak in mid-April 2023. The Supreme Court will deliver its judgment on whether Rishi Sunak's Rwanda policy is lawful after Suella Braverman warned he has no credible backup to stop the boats. Justices at the UK's High Court will on Wednesday hand down their verdict on the British Prime Minister's legislation to remove asylum seekers to Kigali if they arrive by unauthorized means. Defeat for the government will further frustrate what Downing Street admits is a crucial part of his plans to halt Channel crossings and will inflame the role with the sacked Home Secretary. In an excoriating letter to Sunak, a Braverman warned he has no credible plan B if the High Court ruling that the policy is unlawful is upheld. She claimed that even if it gets the go-ahead, then Sunak's compromises will mean the asylum policy could be thwarted yet again by the European Court of Human Rights. Her replacement, James Cleverly, outlined the possible outcomes during the first meeting of Sunak's new-look cabinet after the dramatic reshuffle that saw Braverman shown the door. And finally, on the world news, the African Export-Import Bank says it is set to inaugurate the African Energy Bank in June 2024 to mitigate the crisis in the African energy sector. The bank disclosed this during a session on Africa's energy transition and financing at the ongoing Inter-African Trade Fair 2023 Trade Conference in Cairo, Egypt. The Energy Bank is expected to champion energy-related projects for the development of the African continent. And that is it on the World News and VOP TV. I'm Kayla Abraham. A VOP Business Show is coming up next.